Welcome back to the PML, guys. Of course, I am Fawn. We just had an amazing set between Hype Unit and Sanguine. Really, really great all around. Sanguine could have brought it back, but really Hype Unit was just on point. They made it a little bit too hard for them to be able to fight this back. Of course, I'm back on Des, but Gore's not here. It's actually Nick.
Yes, thank you for updating everybody on the coordinates and the locations of the Paladins team.
Of course, no problem whatsoever. That's
we were talking about, you always let us know that you're in the caster booth, you're on the desk, you let us know where you're at. You know that app, Find My Friends? I was thinking about
Find My Fawn?
Developing Find My Fawn, yes. Wherever he might be.
Yes, of course.
I need to know, and I think there's an app for that. Download iOS or Google Play now.
Hey, man. I don't know if I get any profits of that, but I'm sure at some point that it'll be an amazing app.
You get the safety of knowing that the Paladin scene just knows where you are.
Is that good? Okay, perfect.
You can never get lost.
Yeah, perfect. That's even better. That's even better. Okay, well, it's been a great overall PML set today. I've had an amazing time watching all of these games, whether it's been in Europe or North America. And of course, we get into the last set of today, which is Exile versus FiveStack Esports.
For sure, man. Despite these being the bottom two teams in North America, both of them have made really great strides. Specifically, I think FiveStack, for me, very surprised with how well this team has kind of come together. And still with that caveat of being the bottom two, both minor league regions have become very, very competitive this phase. And I think these guys still deserve a lot of credit because I think they're better than the bottom two teams in the minor league probably have ever been, right? This is the best state I think the minor league has ever been from a top to bottom competitiveness standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but these two going up against each other, it's different than Hype Unit and Sanguine, which is first seed 1 and 2. This is seed 3 and 4. They are at the bottom. I believe both of them are actually 1 and 5, but the only difference separating between FiveStack and Exile is the map differential between the two.
Yeah, the big thing here is, still being the bottom two teams, there is a lot of roster turnover. I think they're still trying to figure out, what 5 guys are going to mesh together completely to form the whole package for these teams. Once they have that, they can move on and start maybe looking for some wins. You look at the top 2 teams, Sanguine and Hype Unit, they have a very established 5 that are practicing. They all have their roles. They know what they're doing. And they've kind of already specialized their labor and are moving forward. I think these two teams still needing to figure that out, but a solid core 5 players nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with both of these teams being, of course, you can't really sleep on them too hard. Of course, they can bring out some pretty fire stuff. However, we have the map bands all ready for you guys to go to see what it is we won't be dealing with today, and that's both Frog Isle and Shattered Desert, respectively, on FiveStack and Exile side. And then we finish it off with some Ice Mines and some Fish Market. Now, what's interesting is that I don't know actually if throughout today, if people are really banned Fish Market. I think just people just haven't picked it.
Yeah, that Fish Market has quickly become the gentleman's agreement not to play it. We're not going to touch it. You're not going to touch it.
Right.
We understand each other at the table. We won't be wasting a ban on Fish Market today. But let's take a look at where we are going to play for this final set of the day. Ascension Peak, kicking it off with a little bit of flavor. Not a common map to be seen in every set, but one that you definitely love to see when you get the chance to. Very unique. You can see the little scorpion stanchion. There are 2 of those bad boys on the point. It's the largest point, I believe. It's either this or Bazaar. Both Bazaar. I haven't got out my measuring tape in a while, but this one has the unique element of 2 statues that kind of provide cover, whereas the Bazaar just has the one and the walls kind of surrounding it. Nonetheless, a fun and unique map to watch.
And here's what's interesting is that Strix ban comes through, Grover ban is there, but I mean, Strix ban, now that's not something you tip, and Victor as well. This is very, very interesting. I mean, once again, you don't see these characters banned at all, but Strix, I was actually about to bring up the fact about how we saw Ricotta end up playing the Strix on specifically this map around the time where Strix was sort of seeing a lot of playtime, and I appreciate the fact that Exile is actually getting rid of Strix. I mean, he had a few changes, but he's still really strong.
For sure. Snipers have always had a place on Ascension Peak. There are rather long lines of sight, especially along the along that mid fight. It's kind of almost like any sniper map has, like, they're good on the point and then they're good on the home stretch. In the middle, they kind of struggle to find lines of sight sometimes, or at least safe lines of sight from a good distance away, leveraging the one thing that a sniper actually brings.
You're out of time.
But it's definitely worth noting, banning out the Strix, keep an eye on where Kinessa falls, if anywhere, in this draft.
Right, exactly. Exile decided to first pick this Makoa at FiveStack Esports. Once again, responds with the Barrack Atlas combo. Already a very, very strong frontline pick so far. Of course, they go to Cassie, and really they're just trying to see who it is they're going to try and opt to go for this 5th pick on Exile's side. Obi Khan. Okay.
Solid front line, frankly, for both teams. Atlas versus Makoa is not something you get to see very often, but when the bans are Victor, Strix, Inara, and Grover, there's a lot available, I think, for both sides. Sometimes this will happen,
the next time
you know, in the lower-seeded matchups of the minor league, where you have particular hyper carry picks. In this case, you know, you got to kind of look at the Strix and the Victor. Banning that out against a team like FiveStack Esports, it's clear that I think they've done some homework on these guys, and these may be comfort picks for them because they are just so non-standard for the minor league overall.
Yeah, they opt to go for Leon and the Furia as well. Of course, Furia was banned out a couple times last set. I mean, this is always interesting to see her as well, but they picked her for their healer, Maeve, in response on Exile side, and we're going to see who it is they're going to get into for the last pick. Right, in this case, that's going to be Ying. Okay.
Yep, good global healer. Can definitely pocket these frontliners as well. Genos, while having that damage amp, and frankly, I think could have been a good fit, it's more of a question of just your playstyle. What do you want to lean on heavier? I think there's a chance they could actually out-heal on the objective, right? You know, you've got Barrack, you've got Atlas. Typically, Barrack is going to be the strongest point frontliner in this pool of 4 frontliners that has been picked, but Ascension Peak, like I said, has those statues, has that cover. Kind of allows the off-tanks to step up and do the point tank thing because they can kind of butt up against the statue and put a shield up, and then they're covered on a couple of different sides. We'll have to see how they end up playing it. And with the final pick, Lex, I think this game is sure to be interesting. Oh,
yeah, we're definitely in for a really amazing game 1 already between Exile and FiveStack Esports, but the teams have already been locked in. We'll see what they have in store for us during this game.
Thank you very much, Fawn and Nick. Got to see 1 and 2 from this region. Now we get to look at 3 and 4. Both teams looking for some momentum around the back half of this minor league split. Ascension Peak could be where they go to find it. Of course, I'm still Dolson. Joining me now, though, is none other than Goremizer for our 4th and final set of the day. Should be a fun one to watch. I think Exile have, you know, they made some big changes a couple weeks ago. Brought in Asdiff, brought in Dintic. So they're a team that are looking to build some momentum on that new roster.
And they've been able to kind of solidify, right? Like, it came in, it was a big splash, and the water's still rippling. Now, the water's still. They've kind of figured things out. And so I think this week, more than anything, is maybe a proving grounds for them. Between them and FiveStack, you're not looking at someone who's going to make this claw to first. You are looking at these teams who are just trying to figure themselves out, try to see what they want to do. And I mean, beat teams like Hype Unit and Sanguine, but they have a lot of work to get there. And it's going to come down to this. I mean, FiveStack have looked pretty decent, but really they've only been able to kind of show it on certain maps. Exile, again, with the roster changes they've kind of had to deal with, are slowly but surely solidifying.
Well, one of those new roster members in Dintic is unfortunately first blood here. Lots of these off-tanks that we're not used to seeing. Makoa, Atlas, most notably, have been played a good bit here today. Little double setback is going to put FiveStack right back on the point. Exile had 27% before being forced out. Ice Monkey does not have the cooldowns just yet, but he does have the wall, so he stays safe just for the moment. 72% for FiveStack. Exile looking for one more offensive push. Could be Asdiff that maybe opens the door. You found quite a bit around the corner. Didn't find the hook, though. Dintic right in range on the opposite side of that statue. Gets the daggers into Ice Monkey. This May flank is proving difficult to deal with for FiveStack. One more volley into the Furia would have sealed up that kill, but I think smartly backs off, takes the aggression that he found, is able to live and fight another day.
Keeps him alive, 90% for FiveStack, and they're trying to play catch-up here as Exile are going forward with it. But they have the Inflame. They're going to pop the Inflame. They want to get aggressive, and again, that's 30% damage amp that you're going to be coming through. And if you're a Furia, that means you're going to hit hard. But if you are anyone Lex, if you're Leon, that means you're able to hit hard. But it's Aspect who's coming up with the kills.
Yeah, damage amp only works if you're alive to hit some shots, and that's what Aspect is doing here. Triple kill from your Cassie. Take it as you will. Exile take point number 1 as well. Your Rocket Boots cooldown. Dintic with the double. Amadeus back on cooldown, maybe stalls things out, but a big fight there from Aspect. Help Exile strike first.
So you nerf Torvald, and all of a sudden Makoa and Atlas just start making it through.
Hey,
right?
I'm fine with that from a viewer perspective, sure.
I mean, it's actually, I think, more fun seeing it the way that it's evolved today, because you notice, like, Makoa and Atlas, they are win conditions, but at the same time, they're also not win conditions. Yeah. Like, they hit kind of both sides.
You've seen some bad Makoa games today, absolutely.
And it's just interesting because it opens up those bans to start potentially being any other champion, right? I mean, you could start looking at banning supports. Like, if we want Furia, I'm going to ban Moldamba and Genos, and then what are you going to do? Go Saris? Like, Io? What are you going to play? Like, we're going to mess with you. And I think, you know, potentially this set, but also just future sets might be able to play with that. Unfortunately, right now, though, for FiveStack, they're just trying to figure out where exactly they want to go. Tuka gets taken down on the side, and with a good hook, they force a pretty early and really far off Gnome Shield.
And nobody's going to think twice about staying outside of that one, and back to 9%. Furia super low for FiveStack, but able to stay alive as Asdiff rolls his way out. There's your illusory rift for Exile, and the aggression follows. Ancient and Dintic start this one off as Asdiff continues the Makoa flank. Good setback onto the Mave, keeps him out of firing range just for a second, but Aspect completes the pinch, cleans up Ice Monkey. Now the payload's inching closer. Ancient Rage and Overpower ready to roll for Exile. FiveStack only with a little bit. Can't stagger anyone else. Everyone needs to stay alive here. You're going to have to drop down. It's going to be on Atlas. It's going to be on Barrack to try to contest, but an Overpower might see to it that that's not possible.
Yeah, Ancient gives his life, but does make sure that Zero is not going to be able to be there. Atlas still going to be standing, still going to be able to kind of withstand a ton of damage in that timer. And honestly, maybe losing the Khan might hurt more than it really helped, even though you got that one-for-one trade. You really needed someone left kind of standing. Makoa maybe too much firepower under him, or onto him, I guess, kind of burning his health bar down. And no one seems to be in that good of a position. I mean, Ancient might be able to and should be able to get a touch, but not with that CC.
1 second left. The Commander's grab gets him in range. One final fight to decide if Exile go up 2-0, or if they end up tying things up 1-1 for FiveStack. You lose Asdiff, that's pretty big. Lex hasn't had the biggest hand in this game, and Battle Shout's going to keep Ancient just in range to try to contest, but Zero just plugging away. There's your setback onto the Khan. Nobody else in range to try to contest. Just like that, FiveStack tie up this game.
Just being able to kind of keep themselves alive, and Ying staying alive throughout. 0012 there for Bagel. But it was the other ex-support player, I guess, for this one. Aspect, who came through on the Cassie and was able to come through. I mean, like 2 shots that miss and then, what, 6 shots that connect total, right? Where he's just being able to burn through, coming down. 6-2 and 6 for him. Definitely picking up the Cassie pretty well. And Dintic went from what I would argue is kind of like a rough early round to a very solid end game there while he was able to pick that up. Bagel, you can see him feeling his streak right there, just kind of dancing on the side. But between the Cassie and the Mave, if they can just keep up kind of that mid-round performance they had when the triple kill comes out for Aspect, when Dintic kind of starts turning things around, they control this mid-fight from the beginning.
Well, it's definitely not an easy map to push on, so FiveStack will be happy that they were able to get a defensive point there. Droyven Amadeus and Atlas, Ice Monkey for FiveStack that have kind of kept them in contention for this game. Another kill. The Exile start to ring through, maybe finding some value. I think one caught Aspect out, so Cassie forced to dodge roll out right into the waiting arms of Zero here. Another illusory rift for Exile, but FiveStack, you know, they emulate the first round, first early game. They're able to win this fight, get themselves on the point, but Exile still plenty of time to get back. No fast cap for either team. Couple ultimates for both sides. It's the Inflame looks to seal this one up for FiveStack.
Now, didn't need it there, but it is always worth noting that you can bust down those shields with your ult here, the Law as Tuga. So anytime that maybe Makoa looks like he's going to slip through his hands, he's always got that option, but they were in such control there. I mean, it was just, I'm going to poke you down a little bit, like, cool, you get the high ground. You're 2 shots from dead, guy. Like, what are you going to do up there? You going to drop the shell shield, or are we just going to finish this out the old-fashioned way? Either way, you're not walking away anywhere near control. And so this time, instead of getting that, like, turnaround performance that you had from Aspect last round, FiveStack just controlled it.
Yeah, they're not letting them even sniff a chance at pushing that mid-fight. Ancient Rage from Asdiff doesn't connect too much, forces FiveStack back a little bit. There was an Overpower, rather, from Ancient that did connect there. Hook just wide. As FiveStack look to mantle this hill here. They have the Dome Shield and Enlightenment ready to go. And still undying. Mr. Bagel on the Ying. keeping their team in at 0-0-13, 0-0-13, and Amadeus is not out of the death yet from the mid of last round either, 5-1-7. A lot of poke coming up this hill, minute and a half left, and Exile forced way back further, and they were able to get on the last offense.
Well, Midnight going to get popped out, and I think the biggest thing to note is you still have only 0-0-13, as you were mentioning. I mean, there is no extra assist. They've gotten one total assist as the support here. Now you have global range. Any kills that happen will be in your favor. But unfortunately, SDF just is not able to keep fighting. Falls down right there, and Dintic gets pushed back to the base almost immediately.
This is a game where the Makoa just hasn't quite hit the mark. It's not necessarily on how they're playing it. I think FiveStack are just playing better aggressively into the Makoa. Shell spin down to try to contest for Asdif, but melted down one more time. It's enough of a kill onto Tuga that forces FiveStack to think twice about really trying to force this one through with 35 seconds left. If Exile get aggressive here, they could be in a pretty good spot. Try to stall out this defense. Daggers from Dintic looking to connect. Very, very low there is Zero on the barrack, but he's able to rocket boots his way to safety.
Wow.
20 seconds left now. FiveStack only have the Exiles. And Exile only have the Scout ready to roll for this defense.
There was a split second where had Dintic been able to hit a dagger, that barrack was gone.
Yeah.
And it was just so slim to be able to find it that he wasn't able to. Now at full health, going to be back on the payload. Payload moving forward, and Makoa half health, Khan lower.
See ya. That one's going in. Ice Monkey double. Just put the icing on that one. FiveStack, big fight there. I think it's sometimes somehow understated how fast an Inflame can charge. That was twice over the course of like a minute and a half or 2 minutes that Muto Ryu was able to use that. Granted, a lot of Furia's run morale boost very early on at 2-1-8. Amadeus still only with the one death. Ice Monkey on the Atlas looking good as well. Look at that damage. Probably, what, 40,000 we'll call it? We'll call it squiggly line 40,000 above the second place, which is 0 on the barrack. So big things here for FiveStack, 1 point away from sealing up the game.
And you do see, as you had mentioned, that morale boost there for Muto. And not only that, but Furia, once she charges up her passive, once it's there, she is firing pretty fast, she's hitting pretty hard, and it just feels good as a support, right? To do that much damage, to be able to find those kills in the right position, you change the fate of the game. And right now, it is all on Atlas.
Atlas having a big game. Ice Monkey piloting that one. There's your overpower. Dintic is at least able to clean up Zero. 1 for 1, front line for front line. Ancient now has to play point tank. Not necessarily where Khan wants to be, but some good healing from Bagel. Keeps him nice and topped off. They have fast cap. They were only getting, 40% lead or so. Exile, I believe, was used once. As Tuga gets caught out by the Ancient Rage. Asdif with that kill. Looks like Exile maybe have this mid figured out as Ice Monkey looks to try to contest. 85% for Exile. The hook pulls him out of range. Ancient puts him back in the ground. Amadeus still alive, could keep FiveStack in this fight if he's able to connect just a few more shots. Fighting behind the statue, so important on this map, and a double kill from the Leon. Actually put FiveStack in a great spot to contest.
Dome Shield had come through to be able to kind of keep him in that overtime, but the Amadeus going down, that means it's going to be up to Tuga, and Tuga has not been in the best positions all game. He's looking for this Yeen, but he's not been able to find her so far. He's going to lock down, but with that hook missing, FiveStack are still in this. It's 97-27, but they're in control.
Ancient and Bagel were the first two to die on the re-engage. And despite not having the best game, Tuga found the important first pick there. Khan's been such a presence. That's a very long-range overpower. That's going to say bye-bye to Barrack. 84%, they have to get in range and try to get a touch. Only 3 or 4 more ticks. There's a setback. Commander's grab puts Ancient right in range and not one tick too soon. Dintic with a double kill. Tuga, Amadeus, damage dealers for FiveStack. Back in base. There's your Scout and Exile. Strike back, find themselves their second point.
Honestly, all you need in that moment. If Amadeus is able to stay alive, I mean, he's not shouldering the entire team, but there are a lot of these engagements where his impact is very noticeably felt. I mean, that retake was pretty much on his back. It was kind of Dome Shield plus him open up the door. And so being able to keep him alive, maybe kind of playing Protector for that, would not be bad.
Right.
But in this case, he got taken down. Dintic had a really, really good turnaround for his team. That just opened this up. The Exile's finally coming through. But at this point, it just feels too late. Like, you've burned 35 seconds of the timer. I guess try to, you know, smoke if you got them, charge it while you can.
Right.
But feels kind of moot.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like those mid-round blues where like nothing's really happening. You know, use some ultimates, get some kills. But that benefits, I think, FiveStack in the long run as long as these trades are going in their favor here, and they're able to force Exile back. You know, things kind of stagnate out around this mid-game. But for the defense, it's happening entirely in the offensive team's base, and you'll feel A-okay with that.
Just being able to find it. I mean, it was 35 seconds. Now it's turned into a minute and 15. Or, I'm sorry. Yeah, a minute and 15. Math. It's hard sometimes. That they have been able to burn down and kind of keep them stalled out. The payload kind of stalled at the bottom of the hill even. And as long as you can keep this fight around the statue, I mean, this is a mid-fight. This is something you're used to, and this is good practice as long as you get this defense. FiveStack can't win off of it, but they can at least pull anything and everything, all ults, out of Exile that they can try.
Any one-for-one trades tend to lean for the defense, with the respawns being slightly closer. Very, very slight keyword there for them. Respawn at the same time for both sides. Tuga's going to get back into it. It's been your thoughts on the Lex so far. I mean, he has been in and out of the meta. There was the 1 week where he was changed and everyone wanted to give Lex a try. And now in kind of niche scenarios he comes out, but to kind of mixed results.
I think he still has his place.
Yeah.
It's just trying to find those zones. I mean, that headshot is a perfect example.
That's some good damage.
It's really good damage in the right hands, and I think we've seen a lot of players with the right hands doing it. It just feels like right now he's been hit or miss. I mean, this game's been perfect. It's been very polarizing. Sometimes getting double kills, sometimes that.
And he did slide forward and find, I think, the jump shot onto Asdiv, so he at least finished off Makoa, who is at about 210 health. Overtime begins here for Exile. FiveStack looking to draw that line in the sand. Muto Ryu finds the 1v1 onto Aspect, and that spells the end of this push. One more chance for FiveStack to end the game. Exile could tie it up and maybe put themselves in good position to win the game with a successful mid here for them.
Right now, Amadeus batting the best slash line on the team, potentially the best slash line in the game.
Best damage, for sure.
Finding it, yeah, top damage, easy for him. I mean, even with the Cassie on the other side, he is batting, how about 60,000 damage ahead. Cassie.
It was 30 on our last check-in.
Yeah, it's pretty far down there. But I mean, 13, 4, and 11. He's doing a ton of work. And that's where like Tuga has to come into the factor. Not too far, about 10K behind the Cassie in terms of damage, but he's 5 and 9. That, to me, means he's finding the right shots. He's doing the right damage. His positioning isn't hitting.
Yeah.
And that's going to be map dependent. It's going to be player dependent. Like there's so many factors that go into that you can't fault him too much for it. But that's kind of why this Lex feels so middle of the pack. Like he's doing really well, except for when he's not.
Sure. And it's been about 50-50. Can't say much about it if Ancient is connecting his overpowers. It's not necessarily player error. I guess you could dodge the overpower, but that's pretty good. just dodge it. Just dodge it, man. FiveStack off to the back foot after a good overpower, and the dome shield as well off the point. He's had to be kind of creative with the Barrack ultimate placement throughout this game. His Ice Monkey is very low, and Asdiv takes advantage to the tune of kill number 1 here. Barrack still alive, 75% for Exile. Good hook onto Barrack. I don't know if he had the cooldown reset just yet for the rocket boots. He hasn't died yet, so he's at least stayed alive. Tuga, though, wouldn't you have guessed it, hasn't, and we got a tie game.
That's the unfortunate scenario. You stay alive in those, but you get kind of locked down under your cover because you're trying to heal up. You're just you're bunkered down. It's literally exactly how it looks, and you're not able to get to the objective. Even as big as the objective is here on Ascension Peak, it's just one Makoa that you have to burn through, one Khan that you have to burn through that are just too difficult to break down. And they were able to kind of stand there long enough. Dintic finding a kill right there. This payload is off to a much better start. And admittedly, it's going to be a lot harder to stop the further up the hill it gets.
This is a tough one to lose if you're FiveStack. You've been in control the entire game. Save maybe 1 point where you're able to defend. You'd hope they were able to seal this one up, maybe force one more mid-fight. But the mid-fights haven't been looking that much better for FiveStack at that rate.
No, not lately.
Exile has felt pretty safe throughout a lot of these. No successful push just yet in this game. As Illusory Rift for Exile might start off the aggression. The shell spin is aggressive. but a good setback. Maybe clip some of that off. There's the Exiles countering out the Inflame. That's pretty good use of that Atlas ultimate. And it's an Atlas versus Makoa. That's not something you normally get to see. There's the Ancient Rage save towards the end. Aspect with the first blood of this engagement on a two-gun. There's the Overpower, hits its mark as well. Payload rolling itself just a little bit closer to the end. The frontliners stay alive, and Exile turn around a 3-1 deficit and find themselves a win in game number 1.
I mean, just being able to lock that one down, it was slowly but surely that climb, I guess, to victory for them, where, I mean, you see kind of, I mean, Aspect spiked early and then, like, leveled off and did well, but Amadeus, really, really good early to mid-game, started to falter, maybe get focused towards the mid to late game, and Tuga was just in, out the entire time. You couldn't truly rely on that Lex to maybe excel for you. And it wasn't necessarily bringing you back either. That's just the awkward thing about it. He wasn't bad, he just wasn't good.
Yeah, I mean, 107,000 damage, nothing to scoff at. Ties up Ice Monkey on his team. 4 out of 5 members of FiveStack over that 100,000 mark. Only 2 for Exile, but those that were above 124,000, but so close to 200K for Amadeus. I mean, it's hard to look at some of the stats for the losing team and see how high they are and then have it not be a win. 13, 5, and 11 for him, 192,000 damage in a 7-point game. But it's Exile that win the day. I mean, maybe those slash lines are front-loaded early on in this game. They go up 3-1. They're very in control, and then Exile kind of claw themselves back, get themselves the win.
Yeah, Aspect at 12-7 and 14, Dintic at 12-8 and 9. Both of them had important turnarounds at different portions of the game. And Dintic, I think, was the more important turnaround king in this one, right? Where you did have Aspect kind of showing up, but Dintic was the one where it's 99 to 99. He gets 2 of the kills to help your team solidify this. If Amadeus is still alive, Aspect maybe goes down, your tanks are under pressure, things change. But being able to kind of find these long-range daggers on this map, use the mobility to get around and chase them down, and it made night and day differences here for Exile.
I mean, the more I look at it, Tuga just didn't really have a direction that he could go and really feel comfortable. On one end, you're fighting into a Mave, and Dintic is obviously starting to come into that and played a lot better around the end. The other side, you got Ancient trying to overpower you. Maybe you got a Makoa on the opposite side. A little bit too much to deal with for the Lex this time around. Big fight though from FiveStack. If nothing else, this has proven that this matchup is going to be pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, just rock, a hard place, a turtle. All of them surrounding you, no matter where you go.
In daily life, I choose the turtle.
Yeah, ideally, but in the realm, he has a cannon and a hook that he does not mind using against you. And I have never been on the receiving end of getting hit by an anchor. I can't imagine it feels good.
Can't imagine it feels very good. Definitely didn't feel good in that one. Exile strike first, go up 1-0. Game 2 after this break.
SteelSeries, the official peripheral provider of the Paladins minor league.
Welcome right back into it, guys. Of course, Exile being able to take the very first game against FiveStack Esports during this very last set of the North American bracket. On such a peak, don't typically see that map, but I mean, it was a really close game still. It was about 4-3, so I mean, Exile, they were able to close it out.
Gotta say, I'm a little surprised, and I think we're in for a good one here. That was FiveStack's map pick. It was an all-out brawl, kind of to the bitter end. These teams look pretty damn evenly matched. An interesting draft from the perspective of a lot of hyper prioritized frontliners make it through, all get picked up. it's kind of fun to get to watch that one. That's not not a lot of those matchups you get to see very often where Makoa and Atlas are on the same game, right? Most of the time those guys are going to be banned out. It was absolutely a heavyweight matchup in game number 1. I'm just wondering if the draft is going to stay with similar priorities moving forward. Remember, we saw the Victor ban, the Inara ban, the Grover ban, and the Strix ban. Those are not very commonplace.
Well, there's only one way to tell. We're going to look right into Game 2's map decision to see where it is we're going to go. We're going to be going to Jaguar Falls. And, of course, right after this little screen right here, we're going to get right into picks and bans to see if those bans are going to stay the same or if they're going to change a little bit.
Frankly, everything except Strix, if they're feeling good enough about banning that on Ascension Peak, frankly, I could see them banning it here on Jaguar Falls as well. Immediately, we're going to see some similarities at the very least. Grover takes a seat, but we will have a small return to normalcy, at least in the sense of Makoa taken out of this pool of champions this time around. Drogos will be up next. And Drogos is not used to be his best map. I thought he was right up there with Bomb King. Both of those characters are a little bit out of flavor compared to what they once were, but this used to be absolutely Combustible Drogos' stomping grounds.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, once again, return to normalcy here. We have the Makoa gone. We have the Atlas gone. Drogos and Grover, not as common bans, but of course, considering the fact you were on Jaguar Falls, I can definitely see why they were opting to get rid of them and lock in Willow for the very first pick on FiveStack Esports. So it's already looking good for FiveStack right now.
Yeah, Willow's super solid on this map. Given that there's only a little bit of high ground, especially on the mid fights, right? You just have that one little wooden catwalk right above the choke point. You can really abuse that. You can absolutely pelt the point with damage from there, but you need to have map control. And that's not necessarily untrue for Willow on any map, but particularly here, if you don't have solid map control, then it's kind of hard sometimes to really get in a rhythm where you're just destroying the point, which is where you want to be as Willow.
Interesting that you mentioned like having solid map control, because I see the Cassie already. That applies a lot of pressure onto both Khan and Barrack. So that's going to be something very interesting to see how they have to adapt to that, because once that record comes online by record 2, it's going to be a very, very huge problem for both Khan and Barrack. They end up locking in Ashe as well, just for the little bit of that sustainability.
Definitely Leon picked up here. Likely to have some type of answer for Willow. Also good dual potential with the rest, I think, of the lineup so far. Khan will have the advantage matchup here. We saw it earlier today, overpowering right out of the assert dominance is something that you just have to be aware of as Ashe. But as we also saw earlier today, while sometimes you just get outright shut down, if you pay attention to it, eventually that overpower usually comes out, and then you can safely pop assert dominance. And it's when you start to get in that staggered rhythm of I have my assert dominance, but he already uses overpower, and vice versa. She already used her assert dominance, and I have my overpower, so I'm just going to burn it. I don't want to sit on it for too long. If that is kind of the natural give and take there, then that matchup will more or less be a wash, but lots of map control drafted here, I think, between Ashe with all of her knockbacks and Inara innate tankiness and ability to walk forward better than you can.
Well, I mean, with Grok ended up being picked. Yeah, I mean, I mean, with Grok ended up being picked in this matchup, of course, we'll be able to bounce off those deployables. And I mean, I'm interested to see. At first, I'm going to say I like FiveStack, but I think Exiles has something that's like
Grok just turned the corner for you.
Yeah, it sort of did. Like, I know that sounds weird, but it sort of did, because just having that shock pulse. Tempest, once that actually comes online, that's going to be a lot of aggression for them to be able to have. So I'm a fan of Exile's draft. I really, really like it. FiveStack is good too, but we're going to have to see. All looks good on paper. We'll have to see how it is in game, though.
It absolutely does look good on paper, but that's half the battle when it comes to Paladins. You can get yourself a great team. Does not mean that you're going to end up winning the game. Game 2 about to kick off here between Exile and FiveStack. Jaguar Falls, though, you know, as undifference making as maps can be from time to time, this is one that FiveStack are pretty good on, actually.
Yeah, this has been like the one consistent map this split that they have just, they know it. They win it, and that's why it's going to be, I think, more impressive to see maybe if you can control, as Exile, control this Willow, maybe keep him locked down. Stop Amadeus from doing what he did on Leon on Cassie this time, but you're going to have a little bit more work cut out for you. Aspect, I think, reaching a little further down the pocket, down the meta playbook, and pulling out the Grok here can be really good, especially against Ying and Inara, but at the same time it can fall flat on its face.
You're right. I mean, if there's a dream composition to play into, it's a
the only thing you could do is put a Barrack on that team to just have him
right. Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, maybe swap out one for a Barrack. The Ashe for a Barrack would be truly ideal. but not the case. Aspect does find first blood. Amadeus continuing his damage from the last game. Trades out with Dintic. Exile fighting from the point, though, as FiveStack look to move forward just a little bit, feeling aggressive on this right-hand side, but you got Aspect hanging out in the corner. Mr. Grok pulling himself back just a little bit. Tug and pull continues. One kill, maybe a piece for both teams here, 57 to 63. This Ancient now has to move into contest range. 0 on the point for FiveStack, Ancient on the point for Exile. And Gore, they're just poking at one another.
Yeah.
Nothing else really falling right now. But with 87% for Exile, the fight's certainly about to begin.
I'm trying to think of it because it's not a wiffle ball bat, although I guess it works for the analogy. That's kind of what they're hitting each other with right now, right? It's enough that it hurts, it stings, but it's not doing anything until right now Amadeus and Tuga just going to be knocking this one out of the park.
Yeah, Willow, you know, you can't forget about her. So much focus put on the Grok. It's a great composition, but Willow's really good.
I'm going to say I don't think he needed the Fae Flight. It's kind of like that extra flavoring, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, do you really need it? No. Does it look cool when you do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he was able to get the style points, if anything, but he didn't need it for the kill. Still found the kill, still found the point. So FiveStack kind of maintained themselves in control as a very menacing Tempest.
Yeah, I was
going to
say, that's quite a sight, isn't it? You just see Grok, legs crossed, flying through the air at you.
But he's got a heart staff. You know he did it with care.
Did he, though?
Did he?
The moment you step into that ring, you're starting to get ticked for a little bit of damage. Overpower connected. Through time and space did not, but Dintic. Double kill on the Leon, forcing them all back. And Willow for FiveStack, that's the big 5 streak to look at there. Exile, a good start to this defense. Could change at any moment, though. If a good enough Fae Flight comes out, forces everyone by the wayside. Grok not winning the first mid fight. He did some good poke damage, but just too much sudden burst from FiveStack turned things around.
I think that's the biggest thing, though. He is known kind of for that poke damage. I mean, Shock Pulse comes through, and it does a ton, and that's what racks up his damage numbers. In fact, if this game goes as long as last game, he could break 200,000 just off of that. But you can see sitting third, fourth now in the pack behind the Willow, the Cassie, the Leon. He doesn't have the turnaround kill potential. That kind of gets pushed onto Leon. He pokes him down. She should sweep him up.
Fortunately, sudden dive doesn't typically work out very well for a Grok. They haven't been able to find a way to capitalize FiveStack just yet. There's a good defense for Aspect. He's emoting and actually catching a little bit of damage. But he moves backwards. Payload stalled out just beneath this overhang as the range of Dintic takes up the mantle on the left-hand side. You have Ancient on the right, or Aspect rather on the right. Just to find something here. Another Fae Flight is ready. Tempest as well. Very frequently up throughout a lot of these fights. Tuga looking for some damage down low. There's the Tempest to try to answer back. Giving his team some move speed, but instead it's more of a defensive Tempest as Sir Dominance cleans up that right-hand side of the fight. Amadeus with some bolts gets Asdiff as well. Nobody's really focusing on Aspect right now. They're just trying to clean up the rest of the fight, but there's Ice Monkey, a double kill for the Ash. Gets up in the grill of the Grok, and now he's back on cooldown. Payload might just go in at this point, and FiveStack on one of their favorite maps goes up 2-0.
I mean, Ice Monkey was in perfect position, had his kinetic burst, had his shoulder bash. If Asdiff jumped down, he was getting knocked back.
Yeah.
And it just kind of showcased, again, the strengths and weaknesses of Grok. You want poke damage? He's got it for you. You need a Tempest to maybe heal you up, maybe deal some tick damage to them? He's got it for you. You need kills?
You need sudden burst damage?
Not quite so much. He's not going to be able to pull that one out. He's definitely a kind of war of attrition champion here. And Aspect, that time around, wasn't able to win that war of attrition. It goes the way of Amadeus, Tuga, and Ice Monkey picking up some kills throughout that last engagement.
Yeah.
And now, again, the question has to come down to, much like it did even in the last set, can you deal with this Willow? Was letting her through the biggest mistake you've made?
Because it's the first set in a while where we haven't seen one of Makoa or Atlas. Both of them being identified in the pick ban phase for both teams. Similar start. They send Asdiff forward with Aspect right behind. Enlightenment does start off, and that's a good commander's grab just to seal up the kill, but Tuga gets first blood in this game. Good seismic crash. Ancient can't move away from that one. Willow continues her high-flying dominance in Exile. You have a through time and space, you have an overpower, but that's all you got to try to retake this mid.
Take some healing from the Ying clone. Now it's going on to 0 here. And just playing the angle, charging up the ult. 72%, a couple of blasts from either your seedling or just your weapon should be able to get you your ult. Through time and space comes through, but again, batting a 0% hit rate so far, and Astif is going to be able to get in, going to be able to get an overpower, but it's just to kind of slow his dying process down.
And, not long enough. Back on respawn, good kinetic burst out of range of contest. FiveStack now 1 point away. I'm just going to stagger myself out. See you. Ice Monkey with the kill credit. Now pushing for the tie is FiveStack. Wouldn't you guess it, Gore? It's their map, and they seemingly got it figured out.
We should put a diving board on the side of that. not to entice people to jump off, but if you're going to, might as well go for the the synchronized swimmer, I guess synchronized diving.
And you can press your emote button in midair, maybe. So you can fall off,
In fact, you know what? Let's just make that a game mode. That's like a new event comes out and it's synchronized diving for Paladins.
Yes, no, I absolutely agree. I think it's maybe the only thing we've been missing throughout all these years is synchronized diving. Exile missing a defense or a point at all here on Jaguar Falls. Tempest's very defensive so far this game. Moves forward, but Zero's just going to shrug it off. Assert dominance from Ice Monkey yet again. Into the dome shield goes Zero, but Barrack is so low. Tuga gets the kill. Asdif trying to clean up Zero, and he's able to do at least that, but gets knocked back into the dead zone. Aspect as well takes advantage of some low targets, gets the kill. But it could all be peanuts. 1 minute and 15 seconds left on the clock. FiveStack, plenty of time to get back in for one more shot.
Aspect finally being able to pick up some kills there, which I think is the biggest turnaround for this team, right? I mean, everyone else has been able to find it. If through time and space can connect on someone, then that's probably the next big story for them. But for Exile, it's just getting this Grok to kind of show he has legs to stand on. He's not just floating around in his Tempest, and that's kind of all his worth is at. It's not just Shock Pulses. He can convert those over. And you just need that more consistently, and this team fight can shift over. Still sitting about 4th, though, so he's not kind of taking the reins the way I expected.
That's a good knockback into the stun. Through time and space does connect this time around. That's healer on healer violence as Begowow gets the kill. Tuga doesn't end up getting cleaned up. It's 140 HP, but the frontliners are all dead. They're all forced back from Exile, and FiveStack in the perfect spot. They take themselves to Jag Falls and tie up this set.
FiveStack have at least one map figured out. Again, it's the only map that I've seen them this consistent on, all split. Don't go to Jag Falls. Ban Jag Falls against them, honestly. I think it's worthwhile because every single set, I mean, against even like Hype Unit, they can control this map or at least look damn good if they do lose on it. It'll be a 4-3, right? They are just good at Jag Falls.
They are good at Jag Falls.
I can't word it any other way.
Practice every other map besides Jag Falls, and then we can put together a complete set. Big win there for FiveStack. Top damage in the game goes to Amadeus, quickly followed by Dintic. Aspect on the Grok was a big conversation piece. We sort of mentioned, didn't quite hit the mark. Doubling up the damage, not quite actually. 40,000 over all of Exile combined is Muto, so big healing numbers there from him. 8-2 and 6 for Tuga. Couldn't find an answer for the Willa.
Yeah, give the man one of the best champions, and depending on who you ask, the best champion in the game right now for damage. And, well, he took her all the way that he could. 8-2 and 6, as you said, and a lot of damage behind it. Just no one to lock her down, no one to kind of keep control of her. You have Leon on the one side, and theoretically, since her health bar is lower, the Grok kind of pulse damage that would come through could potentially cause some trouble. But he just didn't care. He never got caught out, and he was ready to pull the trigger on anybody and everybody.
It's an aggressive Fae fight, the one that maybe wasn't necessary, but at least got him a kill, if nothing else. Good for 5.5 KDA. So big numbers out of Tuga this time around. After a tough game on Lex, important for him to get a good game, I think, under his belt on the Willow. So Lex maybe by the wayside. If you can get Willow every time, I'm sure you'll take it. But I wouldn't count very much on that. Now we got a tied up set, but Jaguar Falls, that one's done. That's FiveStack's kind of guaranteed win. Exile look to repeat their Game 1 performance with a win here in game number 3, and that's coming up just in a moment.
Paladins Minor League is brought to you by Evo Mojo Games, developers of Paladins.
They protect, they cap, but most importantly, they are 5-stack. Already a 1-1 tie on Jaguar Falls. They did an extremely good. Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
There it is, boys. There it is.
Thank you. Thank you. They did an extremely good job on Jaguar Falls. They made it a very, very quick 4-0 against their opponent. I mean, I really wasn't expecting that after how last game was.
I don't know. It's just hard to read, right? I mean, maybe part of it had to do with game 1 being a very different draft with a lot of big, powerful picks that, frankly, just they kind of ran into each other and nobody budged, right?
Yeah.
This one, you know, when you get more blowout type performances and blowout wins, especially given who's picking what map, to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure FiveStack picked Ascension Peak. And this was Exile that picked Jaguar Falls. So so they are taking each other's map picks. They're taking their map picks. But when you have these best of 5s, this is where that set starts to equal out when you go into loser's pick. Everyone's had their best foot forward already, and now you have to look at what's the rest of the map pick going to hold? What's the rest of the map pool have for us? What can these guys do? How deep kind of does their knowledge base go?
Right, exactly. I mean, of course, we have seen the Willow being such a huge factor throughout that game. Just like you were saying, I thought the Grok was going to end up working. Didn't quite work out how I was expecting, but we are in game 3. Let's see what map it is that we have in store for us during this game. Serpent Beach. Nice. I've seen this a lot today, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun map to watch, I think, because of how spread out it can be, and one of the few maps that really does emphasis the ability to take the high ground. While it does have a more vanilla approach to the point, there's that one little area where there's a sundial. That's kind of the call out for it, is sundial. Usually flankers go through that way to get an angle on the enemy backline. It's a bit of a scenic route. But it's funny, if you were to look at a heat map of Serpent Beach, I would bet that that's probably one of the least traversed areas of almost any map in the game. I mean, so much of this is weighted. I would, 4 guys out of 5 most of the time are going to be right behind that waterfall, taking that fight, poking across the way from each other.
Right.
And so you can kind of have that open avenue, and we've seen niche strategies develop around that. Kinessa's, for instance.
Right.
If you pick Kinessa here, a lot of times she'll go through that little sundial area, transport up to the enemy high ground, and she'll be the flanker. And there's definitely some fun little things to do on Serpent Beach around that.
Yeah, I mean, not even just in that. I mean, Serpent Beach has had like a lot of versatility to them. You saw Io come out on this map, man, and she wasn't even really sticking Luna on the point and just sitting there. She was really just being that aggressor, and we see it here once again. I mean, they pick the Strix, they pick the Barrack. I mean, snipers can be played on this map, but we still don't see them as often. Strix has really only been on the rise recently.
Yeah, for sure. And part of that is, I think, the card Roost.
Right.
The damage reduction was very strong. Once Roost was reworked to be ult charged into Flashbang, that was still very strong. So people kind of were playing him for all types of reasons. That didn't end up making it to live, but Strix overall, stealth changes kind of helped him out a little bit. He's always been strong. He's always been viable as a sniper from day one. So I think it's just primarily the stealth changes, but people really recognizing and maybe getting in the swing of Strix.
Actually, Ying being picked in this case for FiveStack Esports, giving them a little bit of that more sustainability. Exile going Ashe, Drogos, and Nara, and the Khan being locked in on FiveStack. Now, Cassie's open. Could you see them like trying to pick that Cassie once again to try and counteract
double
that
shielding. You have Scout to spot out Strix,
right?
Make sure that his stealth is useless at least for a time. You also take it away now. At this point, you know, going Maeve, I don't see them going 3 DPS with no support, obviously. Yeah. So Cassie would have had her merits. Cassie probably has her merits for the side of FiveStack Esports. You have your scout to go into midnight. You have big game against Ashe, who is the highest HP frontliner in the game. You have a Nara as well, who is very, very susceptible to big game. And a little bit of Maldamba. Haven't seen him in a long time, man. Quick highlight on Maldamba. I feel like I need to do this again. But super, super effective pocket healer with a gigantic hard CC ultimate.
Right, yeah. I mean, most people don't really take him as much because of the resilience, don't really want to be feared by that. However, he is back and more than ever. In this case, though, we do have a 1-1 tie already. We're into game 3. Let's see how both of these teams play.
Yeah, I mean, you pick Damba last if you're Exile, and you already have Seismic Crash and already have Assert Dominance. Definitely a lot of healing throughput, but resilience is going to be a lot of value for FiveStack if they end up leaning into that item. Just a little bit here. Serpent Beach awaits in the wings for our first tiebreaker of this set, and maybe our last if the team is able to win 2 in a row. Amadeus on the Strix this time around, showing some flexibility. We've seen Leon, we've seen Cassie. Now we get a look at Strix for the direct damage dealer on the FiveStack side.
Being able to come through, that Strix for Amadeus is kind of the potential turning point of this one, right? Yeah. Tuga's had some interesting games, again, from one where he was like, okay, and then the one where he was stellar and got a bunch of highlights for it. Now you're going to have to look at him on Cassie, see what he can do and how much it's going to work with Amadeus on this Strix. That theoretically can get a ton done if played properly.
You know that Maeve is behind you, but where? That's the ultimate question. Now you don't know where Strix is. Into the roost he goes. A delicate dance in the backline.
We're going to avoid you aggressively.
2 ships silently passing one another in the night. And one ship just turned around and plugged the other one in the dome for 1,200 damage. Now the other ship is angry about it and looking just in and out goes Dintic. Right back up to the high ground. Exile have been on the point this entire time, and Amadeus just has not been able to get comfortable. Yeah, you can maybe shoot once at the mid, but then you have to turn around and focus on what's happening behind you. And that's a Maeve flank.
I mean, just keeping the constant pressure up is helping out Exile so much because, I mean, look how much time Amadeus has spent not looking at Ancient. Like, and even when he's able to turn around, he has to, like, find a quick peek shot.
Yep.
Took him a little while, but they do finally burn down Astiff, but with a Dragon Punch flying through, getting rid of your only tank, you have to wonder if, you know, this commitment that you've had to trying to kill off this Maeve is going to work out for you.
Overtime begins, overtime ends. Exile on the board first. I mean, is it even a flank at that point from Dintic? He was just, I mean, I think it starts as a flank, but then what is the
The rest of it was standing back there going, hey, look at me!
Right.
Look at me!
Yeah, I
over
mean, that's
here.
not. I mean, you flank at the beginning to put yourself in that spot. I don't know at what point it changes from a flank to a I'm standing behind you because it's no longer catching you by surprise. But, you know, it worked out. The Strix was never comfortable throughout that first rotation.
I mean, anytime, if he looked at the point, he got 2 daggers to the back. If he looked at the Maeve, she ran away. It was perfectly played, I think, coming down. Dintic just kind of jumping back and forth between all of it.
Didn't even end up having any kills on it either. They were he was just starting him around.
Spin him round and around and around he goes. And at the end of the day, he only has 1 kill, which admittedly for the range that he has, the damage he's able to do is fantastic. He finally gets that one on to Aspect, so maybe kind of keeps himself balanced out here. But you're going to need maybe either more focus or someone else to deal with the Maeve next time around.
I mean, 0-0-0 for Dintic. If there were a time spent in the back of Amadeus's head stat.
He was offside.
Dintic,
We're going to have to throw a flag on the play.
Unfortunately, that 0-0-0 becomes 0-1-0 as Tuga finds the kill. Now the height and mobility question begins here on Serpent Beach, where the defense gets that free high ground. Not for long when a good Dread Serpent sends Tuga over the edge, and Aspect cleans up those. Double kill for him. This is where Strix will feel a little bit more comfortable holding down that orange room on the right-hand side down low. Looking like they want to storm those gates. Looked for a shot onto Dintic, but only found a little damage onto Asdiff. Good Commander's grab cancels out the shoulder bash. Amadeus makes good, and FiveStack looking great on the defense.
Took him a little bit to get there. There were a couple of shots there where it's like, that one should have hit, and that one should have hit, but he found his pacing. And admittedly, you can kind of think of this, and it might not be true holding into this, but it might be exceptionally true. Where it's just kind of shook. I mean, you had a Maeve harassing you the entire first half of this round, and now you're just kind of trying to get back into the zone, like trying to find that sniper kind of mentality. Yeah, and so you're maybe a little paranoid, but also you haven't gotten to sit down and get into the champion and into the scope. And here she comes.
She comes one more time. Amadeus hits the shot, hits the follow-up there. This is going to be a good defense for FiveStack as Amadeus hits a couple zero, gets a few as well on the barrack. Only the flashbang down for FiveStack. In the meantime, while Dintic was being obnoxious to Amadeus, the rest of the mid-fight happened, and Ice Monkey had a pretty good time.
Being able to find first blood, just get knocked around a little bit from all of it. But
yeah, first blood, 2 minutes and 87% into the game.
Yeah, it took him a while to get there. And at the end of the day, I mean, 6-0-1, it's looking good for Amadeus. I think the trade still may be in favor of Dintic just because of the fact that they got that point. But you have to wonder if Amadeus has maybe some protection. If Tuga this time around meets the Maeve, or maybe Ice Monkey is able to deal with her. You know, it's not going to be the same performance that he had last time. It's not going to be the same distraction factor against Ancient. And so Astif and Ancient maybe having more work cut out for them this time around than just stand on the point happily.
Well, Amadeus is at least back to the same spot. Dintic drops to Midnight. Nice. Oh, that's a good read from Amadeus. Midnight drops, but he does find the plug shot. The aggression absolutely would have followed that ultimate if he didn't have more than or less than 10% health. Good assert dominance to the back line. Illusory Rift for FiveStack's not going to be enough to help save them too long in this fight as the healing wears out. Asdo on the high ground. Dintic doesn't have the range in that engagement. That's a clean 1 versus 1. Amadeus will take that as long as you're hitting your shots. 42% for Exile, and climbing as they find themselves back on the point.
Being able to come through. Misses the overpower, unfortunately, for Ice Monkey. So not going to be able to control ASDF here. And now he's getting locked down. A couple of dragons, but a really good Dread Serpent pushes Ice Monkey right into the fringe of the bullets.
And he runs right into him. Exile run right into their second point of the game. And Dintic didn't quite have the same rent-free lifestyle in the back line of FiveStack this time around, but still was able to force Amadeus to play a little extra cautiously towards the back. But this is where FiveStack dug in their heels. Amadeus had a huge 6-0-1 end of that round. Still hasn't died from that. 8 streak burning away for him. So now Exile need to change something up to get this offense moving.
And Amadeus is making really good reads, not only of Maeve, but just of everybody. Like he's making predictions on this sniper that shows that they've been maybe practicing a little more than Jack Falls this time around. Maybe Serpent Beach is under their wheelhouse as well, as they're being able to find it. Kind of sitting up in the carry corner, right at the staircase to go up there. Because he still needs some vision down on the objective.
Tuga up there?
This is Tuga up there. Yep, exactly that. But it's like the perfect scenario for a Strix. The most boring part of the game for him, because he's keeping track of the payload. He's going to hit anybody and everybody who comes out there. His team's doing the zoning because he can't really fight. Like, there's the spot he's standing for the mid-fight, and there's the spot he's in now. The only other spot is back at his base, and you don't want to go that far. So he's kind of stuck in this area.
That overpower maybe hit him against the wall. Asdif survives nonetheless, regardless of where it hit. It wasn't off the map. Aspect back. A bit of a flank. Gonna hit the fire spit. And there's Tuga around your right-hand side. Forgot about him just a little bit. Not able to clean up Amadeus fast enough. Here's the 1v1 we've all been waiting to see. Dintic, a little unfair, comes in for the 2v1 on the back end. There's the dome shield. Buys some time for his teammates to respawn as Dintic with the flank. Muto knows he's back there now, and Amadeus right back towards his angles, playing this side very, very well. First blood in this re-engage is for Amadeus. Still undying from the beginning of the game. Got a 9 streak for him. Dintic puts his team at a 5v4 advantage, so things may be a little bit more interesting. You have the Dragon Punch as well for that instant execute. Lots for Exile. If they threw everything out, they could probably handily win this fight, but you're looking towards the next mid.
Amadeus going down is going to be able to open this up. Exile potentially being able to convert this over. They have a couple of members left here for FiveStack, and Amadeus will respawn, but again, it gets a lot more difficult with the payload this close for a Strix to have that impact. A lot more pressure probably falling onto the tanks and the Tuga to make this work.
I definitely heard a seismic crash. Didn't see many stuns, a wall to block off the back end of the fight, but bye-bye Aspect, bye-bye Dintic, bye-bye damage for Exile. Defense looking good for FiveStack once the healthy Inara is cleaned up. Couldn't tell you the last time we saw a successful payload push, Gore. Well, it would have been last time on Jaguar Falls, but aside from FiveStack's best map, it's not been an easy map to push on. I guess the only other outlier there is Ascension Peak.
Yeah, at the very end.
At the very end. So, not easy to come by. Certainly this map is no exception. Tied up at 2 offenses. 2 defenses.
Being able to come through, I mean, not the best slash lines really for Exile. 0-4, 1-4, 1-4. It does come down, Aspect kind of carrying the weight of kills on his shoulders, but it doesn't matter because Ancient is carrying the weight of, well, objective capture on his.
Yes.
He's just been moving into the point, and as long as Dintic or someone is back there making sure Amadeus can't shoot him, he's perfectly fine.
287 objective time.
Wow.
Some of that is payload push, but when you compare it with what Zero has, a little bit more for them. Fight begins, Illusory Rift. Out up in the air, there's your overpower, connects this time for Ice Monkey. Tosses, I think it has the legs. That was very calculated. You're very trusting that you're gonna be able to get Ancient all the way off. Any sort of forward mobility champion might not have made it. There's your clean sweep. Amadeus, first time moving forward in this one. Has a kill under his belt, and FiveStack for the first time this game really in control of the mid fight.
Finally being able to break 50%, I believe, for the first time on this point as well. Biggest issue that you can kind of see with it, Amadeus doesn't know where exactly he wants to move up to. He's now just sitting up on the high ground. I think this is the appropriate response, but it's easily pressured down, and they just have to make sure no one touches the objective in the meantime. It's 90%, but Astiv gets the assert dominance to the backline.
It's a good counter out. Didn't stun, but did buy him some real estate. Good body block, prevents the shoulder bash. Asdiff looking for a little bit of relocation, unable to find it. Amadeus, uncontested now by Dintic, is able to shoot down, gets a plug shot onto the Mave. One more onto Asdiff, gets him the kill. Midnight from Dintic, stalls things out. The Shroud falls down. No kills just yet, 60% for Exiles. They fight back in on this mid. Dome Shield drop down, Scout not used to counter out. Forced to rocket boots his way away. Does get the kill onto Aspect. That's interesting to look at. Big important trades now coming to mid. Exile fighting at a disadvantage, especially with Ancient being as low as he is. Asdiff keeps them in this one though. Overtime starts, 99%, a double kill from Zero. Buys FiveStack the 3rd point. Make it 3 for the Barrack.
Bagel trying to do anything and everything in his power to keep this in their favor, but it's FiveStack who claw themselves forward here. And I was just thinking about it while we were talking about it. I saw Midnight come through, and it didn't occur to me to factor Midnight into the resilience. Like, how important is resilience in this game? Because my threshold is kind of like, if there's 3 champions with CC, right? Then you're like at that threshold. Resilience is going to be good, but people only need to get maybe 1, 2 at the latest if it goes like a long game. FiveStack, the fact that Tuga has no resilience right now is actually upsetting. Everyone else at least has tier 1, but that needs to start becoming maybe a must-buy for them to kind of keep control. Cauterizers are online, so you might want to finish that one off before you invest, but it's useful against the Midnight. It's useful against the Assert Dominance stun, the Seismic Crash stun, against the Fear, against Valdamba's stun. Like, there's so many things on the side of Exile that are going to kind of keep you under wraps. And admittedly, you get those. A lot of what Exile have running for them just falls through the grater.
Combustible knockback. I mean, I guess literally everyone on Exile is affected. He had 900 credits, so I imagine next time he's able to buy, which is now, he'll pick up some resil. There's a Dread Serpent. Would have been mitigated with a little extra resilience there. Not going to matter, though, as good defense for Exile begins. FiveStack look searching one last time with 60 seconds left. And, you know, aside from that first flank around, you know, FiveStack's Amadeus, Dintic's had somewhat of a quiet game on the Mave. Lots of good potential picks. Haven't been able to follow up on too many, though.
Just being able to set them up.
Yeah.
Usually, this set has been good enough. But realizing you're having to set them up for a Drogas, it's not the precision Leon and precision Cassie that's going to be coming through to find those kills and get that damage. It's someone who is a blaster, projectile, slower moving, like they have to predict it. And so the kills, again, not very high for Exile this time around, and maybe kind of falling, the onus falling more onto Dintic to make it work out for them. But with a Midnight and Dream, he does always have the potential to win pretty much any fight he sets his mind to.
His mind is set to defense right now. We will have an overtime. Trapped off to the side here. If Exile get aggressive, could find a fight. Nearly knocking off Asdiff was Tuga there, but there's your collapse. One for the Mave, one for the Ashe, and one more volley of daggers. Not gonna find it, forced to dash out. But Ancient does get it. Now you're looking at a double kill for your Anar, and you're looking at another 0.7.
Being able to kind of find yourself, that's that moment again. Dintic is very, very adept at getting people incredibly low. Wasn't able to clean up Muto that time around, but you have teammates around for that exact reason. And this time around, the kills were able to flow a little more comfortably, it felt like, from Exile. So they're looking for this 0.7 to be a little bit more in their favor if they can find it again. 0.
Alrighty.
Being able to get triple kill kind of keeps them, I want to say, in the conversation. I mean, 9, 6, and 10 top damage for the Barrack and the top 3 damage dealers here for FiveStack. But you can't count out Dintic. He's going to be chasing you down. He has the Illuminate, so you know his target is Amadeus. But that's what I like to see. Look at all those resiliences.
There's your Rezil. Rezil 2 for everyone on FiveStack. And some credits to spare. One last mid-fight to determine the tiebreaker here. Dread Serpent finds some value. Just some zoning, maybe. Aspect, another shot or two from 0. One more from Amadeus. We'll clean up the Drogos. Tuga with the first blood in this one. There's your point contest for Exile. He's forced back. Asdiff with some poke returned on to Tuga, who's forced back around this side wall here. Watch out for Dintic. You see him lurking around the corners here. Now Tuga is privy to that. Who's going to win the 1v1? Might be a big one, neither. But Tuga finds the last shot right as he rounds the corner. And Ice Monkey as well back on the point. 75% for FiveStack here. Need to turn this around somehow. If you're Exile, you got to find a way to get some picks. A double kill from the Cassie might just seal up this game, but Aspect Ancient doing a very good job of staying alive, but not alive long enough. And FiveStack Esports begin themselves some overtime as Asdiff moves forward into contest range.
I mean, just doing whatever they can to body block him, stop the assert dominance from landing on the point, and stop him from keeping that going.
That would have been the last-ditch effort. Not sure would have made all of the difference in the world, but the team would have been able to get a little bit closer. Big win there for FiveStack. You know, traditionally, we say it somewhat in jest, but Jaguar Falls is kind of their go-to, so seeing them pick up some momentum here, big win. Yeah. 0.7 on Serpent Beach, definitely good for them, and now they're 1 point away from breaking the tie at the bottom.
And I believe the last time they met, Exile was able to kind of win 3-1. It's been very back and forth between these two teams. Again, a lot of turmoil maybe happening for Exile to cause some trouble for them as they've been picking it up forward. But this one is less on any of that. They feel a little more solid as a team, and it more comes down to how well they played as a whole for FiveStack. Specifically to me was 0.
Yeah.
Kind of standing out above and beyond just because of the fact that he was able to get so much damage done while controlling the objective and stopping Ancient from doing what they did in the first round.
And I give a nod to Muto, a 20 streak for the healer. 4, 2, and 24. Only double-digit streak in the game, much less 20. So big healing numbers coming out for FiveStack. And 14, 8, and 10. Tuga really closed up the game. Amadeus, always, you know, Strix has started to come in the conversation here on Serpent Beach as, well, maybe he certainly is in the meta, and Amadeus shows why we're having that conversation.
And it was after a first round where he was distracted, I think is the best word to use for it, by this Mave. He turned it around. I mean, he was 6-0-1 at the end of the first round, but being able to kind of pick it up, I believe 14-4 was his KD. So just slowly but surely adding on kills, not getting picked off too often, good positioning for him the entire time. And because there was no sniper, and, well, unfortunately for Dintic, he wasn't as successful with all of his flanks, he just got kind of free damage to deal out.
Yeah, and right there where the Strix is so often where they set up home.
Yeah.
Unless you have a big flanker, which they do somewhat in the Mave, but the dive potential wasn't really there.
Yeah.
The positioning of the rest of FiveStack prevented some of, I think, what Exile were looking to do. And Amadeus just sat back, found some pot shots, was able to help his team forward. Top damage, though, going over to 0, I think is pretty big. The fact that your point tank not only seals up a triple kill for one of your caps, but is pushing top damage in the game. That's something to hang your hat on, absolutely. But one game away from closing out our minor league day, our FiveStack. Find out if they do it right after a break.
Skillshot, the official production partner of the Paladins minor league.
Smooth jazz into a smoother game, into another smooth victory for FiveStack Esports. 2-1 on Serpent Beach, and the Strix comes out once again. We saw him get banned before the previous game. Now he shows up in this game, and not only does he pop off, but he has 14 kills at the end of it.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that we always talk about when we talk about Strix is he really has developed into having that anti-flank option. Traditionally, snipers perceived to be the most vulnerable class of character to something like a high burst damage flanker. But when Strix has the unauthorized use flare, and the Talon pistol is almost one of the highest DPS weapons in the game, that combination makes him just as scary for some of those flank. If he even needs that stuff on. We saw some of those highlights. He's just hitting a quick scope up in the air of Maeve, and that's pretty much done and dusted from there on. So a great character, and when you perform on it as well, it can be that much more lethal.
Right, exactly. I mean, if you just give him free reign, like he had some of those times, of course, they didn't always make it easy for him to be able to hit those shots, but when he was just opened up, when Amadeus had the opportunity, he would be able to scope in, hit those shots. Maeve would have a hard time. Everyone on the point would have a hard time. He was hitting more than enough shots and providing more than enough damage for his team. So, I mean, in this case, we'll have to see whether they decide to ban it or how they approach this next matchup. Right into this next map pick to see what we have for this next game upcoming, which is Bright Marsh. Cool. Game 4.
Yes, sir. And given how Jaguar Falls went, there's a chance for another snowball victory here. The draft is obviously determining 70% of the game. I think nowadays, if you get out drafted, you may as well not even load in sometimes. I'm looking at that Ice Mines game from earlier.
Oh, yeah. I completely understand. Yeah. I understand.
Here, I think Exile, they have losers pick. They're picking Bright Marsh. Hopefully, they have an idea of what they want to move for here and move on. I think Willow was a big factor on Jaguar Falls.
Yeah.
Even bigger factor here. This might be one of Willow's best maps in totality. There's so much airspace to play with.
Yeah, I mean, Grover Atlas gone, Willow, just like you were mentioning, and just like I'm sure we've all seen the reign of terror it is that she can have on Bright Marsh. FiveStack gets rid of her along with the Makoa. All 4 characters are off the board, currently down there at the bottom, but Barrick is first picked for Exile. Interesting.
Barrick definitely solid. I still like Anara on this map in terms of a point front line. I mean, we've been seeing Barrick. He brings more damage potential. He's kind of like, think about how Furia brings something that none of the other supports do, but still has that damage in for 8 seconds. That's kind of like Barrick. Barrick brings better damage than most of the all of the frontline class.
Right.
But he could be a point frontliner for 6 seconds.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For 6 seconds, and sometimes that's all you need with Barrick compositions. He can be that point frontliner. With the best of them, right? But the rest of the time, he's bringing you just really solid damage. So it's really kind of what you want to go for. Not many people are first picking Inara these days. I think Virtus Pro is usually one of the highest, people to prioritize that Inara front line. On this map, a good wall and then going to body block the other door that is all of the ways to get in onto the point, man. You can net yourself 20, 25, 30% with just one rotation of good cooldowns.
Barrick, Ying, Ashe, Khan, Cassie, Inara. FiveStack opts to pick up the Inara instead of course, Exile taking it. I mean, you see him a little bit of Barrick off tank, but we don't see it as often, of course, really. He just maintains the point tank presence. Madamba's picked right after Inara, but I talked a little about Kresnik a little bit on Cast before, and I think it was specifically on Brightmarsh, how the difference between Inara and Barrick is that Barrick can fall off. Cassie's on the other side of the field. You can be able to break those shields. It becomes a lot harder for him to be a point tank.
And it's, Inara not having to worry about big game. Big game's really the only thing that bothers Inara, I think, standing on the objective. So that's one less thing that she's going to have to worry about. This is, at the moment, solid in all aspects, but I think the strongest thing FiveStack have going for them right now is the Inara. Has that super high throughput pocket burst healer in Maldamba. The natural predator in big game. You could even argue the natural predator in a firebomb and a hunting party as well. Inara is going to be very difficult to deal with unless Vivian can get a lot of uninterrupted uptime.
Due to the nerfs, do you see Tyra going Burn Monster? Is this why she was picked?
Personally, I still think Hunting Party is the best talent selection for competitive play. You've got 5 guys all calling targets, collapsing on the same people. If 15% damage amp is enough for you to pick Genos, 15% damage amp is enough for you to pick it globally with Tyra.
Right, yeah, I can completely understand that. Both teams are locked in, though. We're getting right into game 4. Either FiveStack can finish this off, or Exile can take us to a game 5.
Well, Brightmarsh is where we stand. FiveStack, just one more for them to find another win here in the minor league. One more shot to try to tie this one up for Exile. You got to win 2 straight here to stay alive. Brightmarsh awaits in the wings. Get another look at Tyra, who has changed recently. Of course, normalized her damage amp just a little bit. But I always say, more of a good thing can never be a bad thing. So while it's a little mitigated, you still get some damage amp for your team.
You're still going to be able to come through. Although it looks like we're going to be treated to something a little different this time around. Mercy kill.
Yeah.
And now this is actually going to be important. We'll have to take a peek at his loadout to see if he's running it. But there is a Mercy kill loadout. It was actually big before we saw the damage amp come through. And it's right there in the Fray 5. Once you activate it, not hitting anybody with it, as long as you shoot the grenade, you get 20% damage reduction for 3 seconds. Tyra is going to be a tough cookie to crack.
Well, that proves true right here. This aspect for Exile. Finds the first couple in this one. Dintic as well onto the board here, and Exile find themselves onto the point first. Down 2-1 in this set.
And just being able to find that. Astif getting aggressive here on the side and finding a good zone. FiveStack getting some issues, I think, trying to pick this up forward with them. 75% here for Exile as kills are coming down. Ice Monkey goes out, and Exile looking like they could potentially close this out. Zero is going to be contesting on the point.
Frontline drops the shoulders. Frontlines move themselves through, and this is all Exile all day. FiveStack get cleaned up just a little bit. Now with a chance to strike yet again. This Tyra's been looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of those things. So when you look at it, you have damage amp on Hunting Party, right? Which comes through. You're going to be able to mark 2 people. That's going to be very good for everybody. But you still get bonus damage just yourself, right? Yeah. Being able to run it without the team. You get some interesting damage on Burn Monster. But the problem is, as Kresnik has put it in the past when I was mentioning it to him, was just, cool, that it sucks, it hurts. I'm just going to walk 5 feet that way, and now all of a sudden the damage is maybe gone. You can melt some people pretty fast. It does stop dashes from like Barrick maybe causing some trouble, but hold that thought right now. It's going to be King Bomb that comes through, and Astif just kind of shrugs it off. I thought that was going to be way more monumental than it was.
Oh, we were ready for something to happen. That's a big seismic crash, followed up by the Dread Serpent. Ashe hasn't been able to play the game for 2 or 3 seconds here. Stunned up, feared out. Ancient gets the kill. There's the healing for Ice Monkey, though, from the high ground. And this entire time you got Vivian just kind of unloading, but at some point these squishies are going to have to move themselves down to try to contest. Barrick back into this fight as Bomb King respawns as well. Knotted up. Ancient on the front line here, doing a great job of controlling this game.
Now, I was going to throw it out there, but I mean, with a minute left, they might still be able to convert this. This is a map that, in my mind, is very similar in playstyle to Jag Falls, which theoretically would mean FiveStack would have a much better kind of performance on it. But right now, I mean, Tuga up here on the high ground kind of locked away. Amadeus not able to do too much. Aspect finding a kill right there. This payload's knocking on the front door, and with another kill coming down from Astiff and Aspect, it's looking solid here for Exile.
Missed overpower, but he is able to get the kill nonetheless. And Aspect, nobody's looking at him right now. He's free firing in the backline on this Tyra, playing just out of the line of sight. Barrack is the last frontliner left alive until the Assert Dominance drops down, but that is way out of range. What? It looked like a weird angle. Did he like Commander's grab him out of the...
He might have done it off a Commander's grab. Like he grabbed him and then as he was landing, jumped.
It looked like a weird
Didn't seem
angle.
like he got the up down that he wanted though.
No,
That's
if
kind of
nothing
the
else,
big
he
goal.
didn't.
He
Right.
zoomed a little way too far over the map, and so Exile do find themselves up 2-0 here, and it's just so nice seeing this. I think Aspect is kind of the fresh reminder here, specifically of what Tyra was doing pre-hunting party, kind of taking over. Just because it was in that area to climb up. I mean, this was, I want to say maybe the beginning of this year, maybe it was the end of last year. No, it had to be the beginning of this year. That's what Tyra was doing in the minor league, was running this kind of grenade launcher damage reduction loadout.
Right.
That just meant, cool, I'm at 2,600 health. I'm already the healthiest DPS. Now you can't kill me. What are you going to do?
The question they look for an answer to is only one kill in that first round for FiveStack, but here's a good answer. Let's fire away with Tuga. That's a big double kill. Aspect pulls one back, but King Bomb rolling in. King Bomb finds a little damage. But that's all it finds. Aspect unleashes the crossfire and gets a kill of his own, but not before Ice Monkey is able to turn this one around. So after being only one kill in that entire first round for FiveStack, this is a big answer back. Fast Cap holding them on this mid. Just need a little bit of zoning now. 78% as Inara looks to calculate her re-engagement. That's a big overpower from Khan, forces Ice Monkey around the side there. Amadeus with the first blood in this re-engagement, scooping up a kill here in this case, almost a second as Ice Monkey stays alive.
And just being able to find this aggression, 99% overtime sticking down. Still have Inara able to touch and keep overtime going for him, but Amadeus has woken up here on the Bomb King, and potentially he's going to be turning this one around.
He was sleepy in that first round. Gets some kills, overtime expires, but Asdiff back on the point here. Some time for FiveStack to work with. Tuga is going to be peering through this window. Half health for a lot of members of Exile right now. This is a dream for Tuga if he's able to find the angle. Just getting poked out a little bit. There's the second crossfire of this engagement. The action has not stopped since the beginning of this mid. Ultimates flying left and right. Zero drops the dome shield just to extend his life, but there's the wall you have to look at. Overtime is going to absolutely melt away in Exile. One last time, maybe capture this mid.
Going to be able to hold on to that one and keep themselves rolling forward. And with a really, really good lead up to this payload as well. So far, looking like they could convert this into a 4-0. As long as nothing goes wrong for them. I mean, they're about to have the overpower up. You're already 50% back on that crossfire again here for Aspect. Have the seismic crash, and it's going to take a little while to get there, but you soon enough will have a Dread Serpent as well. CC galore and damage galore for Exile means that they could very easily open this door.
That barrack shield got absolutely melted for Zero a moment ago. It's a big, long cooldown to have completely melted the moment it goes up. Already showing some cracks. Dintic as well pokes his head out just for a moment, finds the kill. Onto Vivian, who's so important from that high ground. Shoulder bash ripped through for FiveStack, found an Assert Dominance. But there's your overpower. Didn't get the kill, but if nothing else mitigated the Assert Dominance as Asdiff moves around to the bottom right. And you know, you kill Tuga once, but you got to kill him a lot more than that. This Vivian is just going to rain hellfire down from up above.
Yeah, the Sentinel's finally coming out. and just
that
damage. Yeah, is going to be big. And the other thing that you don't think about as often with it, it's not just more damage, but all of a sudden Vivian, this hit scan presence that you could just stand behind cover before, has blast damage coming out at you. Like, you have to deal with that. A la Victor Grenade, but maybe more Drogo's Rocket-esque, where it's just landing down next to you as long as they shoot properly, or maybe if you misstep just once, that splash damage is still going to be able to hit you, keep you out of healing or out of combat healing, and it's going to potentially splash up and be enough to find the end for you. Now the question is whether or not Exile want to commit. I mean, 4-0. They have 3 ults, almost 4 available to them. As long as Ancient stays alive here, they could still close this out.
The answer is yes, and the cost is a Dread Serpent. Dintic makes good. Tuga again, the first blood. Dintic has just been poking out on this right-hand side, hitting a volley of shots, finding some kills. There's a crossfire for Aspect, trying to seal up this game. With 10 seconds remaining, down onto the payload, goes 0. The shield hasn't been able to stay alive for very long. He still has some damage amp for himself. The mark goes on to Ice Monkey just to spot out that Ash. Gets the kill, but there's still 0. 0 is extending his life so long throughout this one. That's a good Grumpy Bomb stun. Forces Ancient back into the wall as overtime continues.
Just being able to find anything and everything. King Bomb going to come through, but Inara just soaks that one right on up, and they turn it around as a kill.
And this is looking good for Exile. Frontliners, only ones left alive as Tuga, Amadeus both die off. Shoulder bash out of range, but Aspect still alive. Melts away Ice Monkey. And now 0, deer in the headlights, and he falls right on off. And Exile tie up this set. Won't you guess it, another game 5.
I do want to give some style points there to Amadeus. Ending the screen with a Grumpy Bomb in the camera was perfectly done. But unfortunately for them, that style points only wages so much for them. It just does not quite seal the deal, and they are not able to get this.
Oh, they are not, and we got one more game 5 in the wings for you. And apparently very contested, whether it's the top 2 teams or the bottom 2 teams. We always seem to have a great match for you. Exile winning. Bright Marsh as fast as FiveStack won Jaguar Falls, and no matter what, we'll have a winner in your next one. Aspect, big performance on the Tyro. A lot of question marks surrounded that one going into game. Made it look pretty good.
Yeah, no question marks afterward. 26 streak there for Bagel as well. I think worth noting 183,000, about 50,000 more there. Actually, 51,000 more than you see out of Muto. 1-0-25 for him. Undying, 9-1-14, 7-3-14. Astiv, the only one who had a negative slash line at 2-5-12. But Aspect, the grenades, the crossfires, the damage, it was all there to give him 11-2-14.
Yeah, big performance from him. Ancient also a great game. I mean, I know we're looking at Aspect, I think. And Nara really controlled the front line. But Aspect showing that, yeah, maybe Hunting Party got touched up a little bit, but maybe I'll run Mercy Kill. Maybe I'll run, the Bird Monster, and maybe it'll still work. This time around, it's Mercy Kill, and that damage reduction helped out just a little bit.
And Mercy Kill, like, this works so well because of the wording on that card and because of how it activates. It's not if you hit the grenade. It's not relying on that damage to connect or splash anyone. It's just as long as you activate it. He shoots through that window just to kind of guarantee no one's there. He gets 20% damage reduction for 3 seconds. You shoot it at your feet for some reason, 20% damage reduction for 3 seconds. You accidentally tapped right click while you were walking around, 20% damage reduction for 3 seconds. Like, you're set.
For me, most likely the latter. If I'm accidentally right-clicking, I dismount myself on the way towards the first mid, but I'll be nice and
Those 3
DR'd
seconds,
on my
no
way
one's
in.
going to hit you.
That's absolutely right. Well, one more Game 5 for North America. Find out how things end up right after this break.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the Paladins minor league.
Welcome back, guys. Of course, this is it. This is Game 5. FiveStack and Exile are both tied up 2-2 after that game on Bright Marsh. Very, very good game. And I was talking a little bit about it. I was talking a little bit with you, Nick, about I thought it was Burn Monster, but you actually mentioned it was the grenade launcher talent, which is something we literally I would never see that. I mean, we see Burn Monster, we see Hunting Party, not that one for sure.
Part of the fun in you know, the way Tyra works is that you have higher base health than any other damage character in the game at 2,400. Doesn't seem like a lot, but then you have an HP card. You could throw another 250 on top of that to get yourself to 2,650. When you throw 20% damage reduction in there, you are starting that fight as Tyra near like 3,000 effective health when you factor in the damage reduction to how much health you have and the base, like I think it's 5% lifesteal in your kit. You are easily working with the most health of anyone in the damage class. And while it's not very team-oriented, it might be more of a solo queue talent, I think it still works here if that's the way you're going to play Tyra, right? You can play for the team. You can play that general, like, mark your targets type of Tyra. Or you can play more for yourself and play more for the kills.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely ended up working out for them, you know? I mean, I was really, really impressed with how that Tyra was played. But, of course, Game 5, we have to see what map it is that we're actually going to be going to for the very final map in the set, Splitstone Quarry. Nice.
Yes, sir, indeed. Seen a couple of different iterations of this map today. And one that I think really highlighted the way you play Splitstone Quarry, with the way the flanks are sort of highly prioritized here now, but the weaknesses of the flanker class and the composition that revolves around them. It was very far, I think, on one end of the spectrum in that, right, where there was a Barrack, and I believe just 3 other DPSs, 2 of them being flankers, Eevee and Maeve. And in those types of compositions, when you're not actively winning, you're losing. Meaning that Inara was on the other team, she's just standing on the point. If her team is not collapsing around her, she's winning by just getting the stand on the payload, or excuse me, the point, and contest for free. So if you want to pick those, you still need to feel confident in yourself to use it. And usually how you use that is you abuse the mobility. You take control of every high ground available to you on the Splitstone point, and you just shoot down, you corral everyone inside of the quarry or right by the fidget spinner, and you make them pay for, you know, being so clumped up.
I mean, Makoa, first picked on FiveStack side. Exile do have access to the con. I imagine they're going to pick the Atlas. I just realized Atlas actually wasn't banned in this game. They actually go for Eevee. I mean, I'm wondering if it's a smart decision to really try to both forfeit. Forfeiting Makoa, I can understand, but forfeiting Makoa and Atlas, I don't really know too much about that one, honestly.
Now it is,
I don't know.
We talked about this composition or these two characters earlier, that it was awesome to get to see them both in a game because it's that rare. To see them both on the same team is a whole different beast. Now again, talking about Splitstone Quarry, this is the map we're playing, different priorities, different maps. Flankers are very high priority. I think Eevee's mobility is going to be a big factor here. But you have to execute on it, right? It's not a pick. There's for ease of this example, there's 3 outcomes. Team A wins, a stalemate, Team B wins, right? When you have that safe, very point control heavy composition, you win if your team wins. You win if there's a stalemate, you know what I mean? 2 out of 3 outcomes are in your favor. If you're picking heavy flank pressure and you're not getting the kills, you're not getting that pressure that you drafted for, then you're losing.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, Ying, I guess, to counteract some of the damage I guess they'll be doing, they're just giving themselves a little bit more sustainability. Genos being picked last on FiveStack Esports side. And, of course, Exile has one more pick in store for them. Of course, it would be the other damage dealer, really. They already have the support. They have their 2 flanks. Not 2 flanks. They have their 2 frontliners, their flank, and Victor being the last pick in this case. I still like FiveStacks more. I mean, I feel like it's going to be hard for them to. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be hard
comp to like, right?
Yeah, well, not a hard comp to
trolling. They don't have any way to get to this Victor if he stands up on the high ground, kind of on his own. But what they do have is a dredge anchor. What they do have is a setback. They do have ways to make the Victor come to them.
Well, this is it. We'll have to see if they can actually end up clutching this one out. FiveStack versus Exile, Game 5. Let's get right into the final game.
One last game to decide the 3 versus 4 matchup here in North American Paladins Minor League. Big answers back from both teams. Exile most recently, big 4-0 over FiveStack on Bright Marsh. So you look at it, they got the momentum coming into this one. But you know what FiveStack have, Goremizer? They have an Atlas, And they have a Makoa.
It's hard to tell who's calling whose bluff here, right? Like, you get Atlas Makoa, and it feels like FiveStack called the bluff of Exile, but you let them have both, so it feels like they're just like, you know what? We can give you these two and still win. So we'll have to see. Well, I guess who's right at the end of the day. Amadeus is back on Leon, which is, I think, very frightening. Tuga, who had a pretty solid Cassie game, going to be back on her. And then you give it all damage amp with the Genos. Like, it almost feels like it's almost impossible for FiveStack to lose this one. They have so much in their arena.
Certainly would think that, and things at least start that way. Half health for FiveStack, but first blood for Amadeus. And wouldn't you have guessed it, Goremizer, Exile cannot step toe out of their base. A little too scary. Another kill for Amadeus on the Bagel Wow.
There we go.
Just now, they're on the point. I was going to say, wait, they have no percent. And right off the point, again they go. Winning these engagements only do so much if you don't stand on the point. 3% for FiveStack, despite controlling the rest of this. I guess you look for maybe one clean sweep team fight and then peel yourself backwards.
Now, I am going to use this as an anecdotal moment, but every now and then you'll hear us mention on the desk like an 18-minute 4-0 on Fish Market. How could anything like that happen? This is how those kinds of maps happen, where it's just there's maybe a little bit, I mean, not a little bit, there's a ton of pressure on these teams, and you maybe don't have the proper shielding, maybe the right amount of health, or the confidence that you could stand out on the objective. Now with that kill, I think FiveStack will be able to kind of control this objective a little more, feel more confident standing out on the point. But before this, it's kind of nerve-wracking. Standing on the objective could actually throw the game for you if you die on it.
Yeah, and that's a good pinch from Exile. So Tuga and Ice Monkey are cleaned up now, and despite being in control for 2 of the 2.5 minutes of this game, Exile win the most recent fight. And they're okay to throw themselves on the point as Dintic now looking to zone. Some big wormholes will do that. Amadeus calls it, slides backwards, and a kill off screen. Amadeus, or excuse me, Aspect onto 0 on the Makoa. So some of that big frontline presence now gone, and looks like Atlas might be stuck out.
Through time and space comes through, is looking to try and chip. Might have chipped a little bit there onto Barrack, but with the shield there, doesn't seem to have done too much health, especially with the healing. The Illusory Rift already popped. It's been able to charge up 99%. 3 minutes in, but it looks like Exile are finally in control.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the first 2 minutes of that game, they could not even step out of their base. So, I mean, you have to give hats off to Exile for kind of slow playing that. Probably easy to panic. I guess it's easier to wrap your head around when, despite not being able to move, the enemy team only has 3% on the point. So it's not like they were really hard-pressed to move out right then. One more barrage will drop Tuga. Doesn't find it, though, as Asdiff gets another kill. He's the one controlling this front line.
I mean, just being able to find those kills. Khan can do a lot. Barrack can do a lot. And I think Victor on this map is, I don't want to say undervalued, but maybe underplayed overall. Like, he comes through, people recognize he can do a lot. And I think it's in part that burst mode, you're going to find a lot of good kind of like piercing damage onto them. But there's also the aspect that is the grenade being able to come through from Aspect. You throw it at the right angle and you don't cook it long enough, like those kind of things can impact how much damage do they take from it. Does it bounce into the right angle? Like it's very more kind of strategic shooter grenade throws that you could have on it. And then sometimes it's also, haha, hit Q, throw grenade.
More often the latter. Ice Monkey double kill from the high ground. Muto Ryu seals this one up. A quiet falls over Splitstone. Corey as Exile are back respawning and regrouping, and FiveStack looking to set up their defense. 5 ultimates ready to go for the blue side of things. 4 over for Exile. That barrage will charge nice and quickly, though. So you call it 4.5, 4.79. But just like that, you see one.
Now you're just throwing out decimals.
I'm allowed to do that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not wrong.
Quick maths.
Quick maths. Amadeus, quick maths, gets a kill onto Aspect, so there's one more kill for him.
Honestly, now it is 4.9 technically, if you think about it, since 9 is just part of it. So, you know, quick maths, always accurate here in the booth is Dave. 100% all of the time.
Well, I was right, too, when I said like 4.76, right? Because it was at 76%. I was never wrong.
You were never wrong. That's the thing that I genuinely thought you were just making up a number, and then I thought about it a little more, and I'm like, actually, no, that's
That's
exactly
percentages,
how
baby.
You find it overall. And, well, it's going to be the Illusory Rift, now only 4.1. 0.01, sorry, as they come through here.
Oh, here you go. Now
you
got some serious math to start doing. 3.16 ultimates ready for Exile. That was accurate as well. Ancient gets the kill. Ice Monkey goes toe-to-toe with Asdiff to the side. It's a frontliner for a frontliner, but a dome shield means Exile wants to have some extra staying power here. Amadeus keeps his team in it, but one more shot from Ancient will clean that one up. There's a hook off to the side. Bagel Wow for Exile is no more, so there's no more healing for Ancient as he tries to keep his toes around this payload. Fortunately, too much damage. A long offensive push comes to a close as FiveStack tie this one up.
Just being able to come through. A lot of promising moments from FiveStack, but when you have, you know, Makoa Atlas, you think maybe you're going to hit a little harder back, but it does come down. I mean, Amadeus earlier was kind of the saving grace, even though his team lost on Ascension Peak. He was one of the brightest moments and brightest champions for them. So being able to come through and have a good performance here, not too surprising, as it does come down to these last couple of rounds that will determine this. But, I mean, 7-1-3 kind of paints a target on his back in my eyes. That's someone you got to deal with.
It's very, very similar to his slash line on Ascension Peak. FiveStack were able to handily win area control. Exile are going to opt for the lava side here. They were trying to fight their way out of house side on bleacher side to the right. Zero finds himself an Ancient who gets himself out to safety. Muto and Toga, the first couple here. This is what you're looking for from FiveStack. They're able to buy themselves the space last time, but no kills. This is a clean sweep, and they're on the point to boot.
Everything that, like, slowed down the initial fight at the beginning of this game, flip it on its head. They did everything and anything in their power. They still have the Exile. They still have a little bit of Leon's safety net kind of incorporated into their kit. Some burst damage along with it. They can get aggressive. They can hook an Eevee. And at this point, it doesn't matter. You're distracted.
Yeah, and all of this, if there's any retake from Exile here, it's just to delay the offensive push. FiveStack get on the point. They win the mid. And honestly, kind of like in Ice Mines fashion, they did not let Exile cross the barrier at all, and one clean fight was all they needed. They are going to back off here. Ice Monkey looking out for a little bit more poke damage. This is a spot where I think Victor could find some good value for Aspect if he's able to stay alive. He gets that free high ground, whereas the members of FiveStack are going to have to move down and around.
Absolutely.
Keep your eyes out, though. Amadeus got some great burst damage on that Leon hanging out above the bleachers over there. If Aspect moves too far out, could be a dead Victor.
And Aspect is trying to find these angles right now to get the damage onto Ice Monkey. He's been able to poke him down and get it really close almost every single time. This time, well, pretty much in the same vein, throws the grenade, but the wall's going to be able to catch it. It's those moments, again, where if you maybe don't cook it, you can bounce it off the bleachers. Like, those are those, like, the fast-paced action. Maybe you slow it down a little bit to try and figure it out, just to see if you get the kill. Either way, you're stalling this Atlas out. Ice Monkey couldn't do anything that entire time.
Yeah, they're identifying the Atlas and the Makoa very early on. It you know, it hasn't really even been the Atlas and Makoa, despite being the obvious spot your eyes go in that FiveStack lineup. Amadeus has kept his team in it. You got a 12 streak burning away for Genos as well. I mean, not that they've had bad games, but aside from, you know, some double kills here and there, it hasn't been, wow, Makoa and Atlas are overwhelming Exile.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the man out of time, I feel like I've actually only seen him show up in really like a couple of these plays max. Like, I've seen a few good Makoa plays come through. Good hooks, good kills, Ancient Rage making a difference. Most of the time I've seen Ice Monkey, it's actually from this angle where it's him versus Aspect, and finally he's kind of getting the better end of that trade.
The help of a little Void Grip. Muto Ryu gets the kill there. Down 2 members, Exile. Force back the last 3. 15 seconds left. Could be looking at an overtime here. FiveStack, 4 ultimates ready. 3.76 to be, or 4. Oh, I messed up. 4.76 to be exact. There's the hook. Exit stage right. Stintic. This is the wormhole, but maybe finds a flash shot. Zero uses the Ancient Rage, just swinging away at the barrack. Finally, Ancient drops. But the damage dealers for Exile have been able to free range damage throughout the rest of this fight, while Zero is more concerned with other spots. He's shell spinning away. At this point, there's no chance he gets back onto it. One more cap, one more defense, 2 more points to go for either team.
So much that can go right, so much that can go wrong. Ancient Rage being used towards the end there. They have the Exiles ready, but now you're in this position where potentially, I mean, you have to ask, does that make the difference? Like, are you going to be able to combo it with anything? We saw actually earlier today, it might feel like ages ago, but it did happen that we saw, you know, an Exile matched with Through Time and Space can make a huge difference if you time it that way. And those are the kinds of plays I think that are going to make the difference right now. You need that kind of teamwork from either side in order to confirm yourself a point, because otherwise, you're like, so far it's felt kind of like just clashing things together, seeing what comes out afterward. And with no Ancient Rage, there's nothing really picks FiveStack back up after maybe an event like that happens.
For Exile, last time was Lava. This time it's Beyblade. That's a good double setback from Ice Monkey. Nobody really in range to take advantage of it. Ultimates, a fly, left and right aspect, the only one getting the kill. But look at all of that damage pouring out from Exile. I think they've started to realize they can get aggressive in some of these fights once their right ultimates are on board. Dome Shield dropped down, Barrage, Illusory Rift from the back end, and they handily win this fight over FiveStack.
I mean, just being able to find that Barrage doing so much work. And it just gets rid of the Exile. It gets rid of the Atlas in general and stops him from having any potency around this point. Makoa's going to be trying to fight back, but this is actually where you're going to, one, be very happy. The Exile gets just kind of fired off into nothing. And you've distracted everybody and kind of zoned them away. You're starting to lose some members, but you're still in control.
Ice Monkey not able to get comfortable. Overtime after the formalities is going to expire in favor of Exile. And as long as this set has been, they now have a chance to end the game with one final push. Even if FiveStack are able to defend, we're at least tied up, so points to gain for both sides here. But also no points necessarily to lose for Exile. Or yes, a point to lose if they're not able to push it in. It's good overpower. Ancient gets the kill. Keeps things moving forward, and the front line was, despite having a Makoa Atlas, continue.
It's just that awkward moment. Makoa and Atlas are really, really good off tanks.
They're not right. They're not pointing.
You're not having anyone like both of them pretty survivable. I'll even give them that. They can exist and live for a while, but they just don't compete with a Nara Barrack. I mean, maybe if you have a Nara versus Makoa, it might become a little bit more, not necessarily one-sided, but even at least. But, I mean, with the amount of damage that Barrett can do, with the amount of control he brings, and what Exile's playing like right now, you needed something else. And even though they are the top picks, it seems like Exile called your bluff.
Well, they got one more chance to defend this one, maybe even more if this one doesn't go through. There's the Dome Shield off to the side. The shell spin in from Zero. Amadeus with the first kill. The Ancient Rage immediately refills that health bar. Then I don't know if they were prepared for that on Exile. A triple kill from Amadeus could have just saved this game, but there's still 60 seconds left. Exile, one more chance, but this is going to be a vicious zone. Would not be surprised if this ends up going to 0.7, but they're actually going to back off. They're going to try to absorb the pressure one last time from right here.
Exile is starting to come up, or at least off cooldown here as it charges up. 78% picked up for the Atlas. They'll charge that up slowly over time, but that Leon is kind of who I'm looking at. Like, what Ice Monkey does with his ult and what Amadeus does with his damage are the two things that are potentially going to save this game for FiveStack. But you're coming up on Illusory Rift, you're coming up on a Barrage, you're coming up on an Overpower. Those are all game enders if they get them, and two of them have already charged up in the time I finished the sentence.
Well, Amadeus is the name they called last time. Dintic tries to counter that out. That's a good blink in. Amadeus not in this fight for a moment. The Exiles stall this out heavily. There's the first kill from Aspect as Barrage starts to rain down. One more onto Ice Monkey. And wouldn't you guess it, Makoa Atlas are the first two to die. A double kill from Aspect. This one's all done, and Exile and 5 finish up the day.
I honestly, as far as ults go for supports, when it comes down to which one's going to help you win a team fight, Fury is up top. I mean, you know, damage, movement speed, the works. Ying's right there. Right behind it, right? That 600 health all of a sudden being kind of pumped into your veins. You're feeling healthy and you're being able to stay as aggressive as you are. And at the end of there, that plus a barrage is all you need in order to just clear out anyone and everyone that stands in your way of victory.
I think it's the consistency that it provides
that's
game-winning ultimates. I mean, you could absolutely say, well, you know, through time and space, that's a game-changing ultimate, and it is, but it's entirely dependent on you hitting a big double kill. A single kill even can turn things around, whereas
Bagel just goes,
Rift
hit E,
smashes the E key, smashes that like button, and the rest of his teammates subscribe to that one for sure. 10, 8, and 12 for Ancient. Aspect, big game on Victor to seal this one up. I think FiveStack have to leave it. Heads held high. Amadeus, big star for that FiveStack lineup.
Amadeus was absolutely insane all day, all 5 games that he came through. But it was 3 and 9 for Ice Monkey, 5 and 12 for Zero, showcasing that again. You know, those champions, they're great. Atlas, Makoa, they make the biggest differences when paired with a Barrack, when paired with
maybe
an
not on the
Inara,
same
when
team.
paired with maybe an Ashe. Together, I honestly think I've seen them perform worse when they're together.
Well, it's the constant struggle. And look back to point number 1. We're tied at 0. FiveStack had Exile on the back foot, and we're like, oh, they just don't want to fight into an Atlas Makoa. Sure. I mean, probably why, but nobody was back on the point, and neither of them want to play backwards. Once Aspect was able to move forward, find some of that burst damage, his items started to come online. This game might have been over. His barrage is constantly on point.
And I will say, you know, as someone who's used to seeing Aspect play as a support, I mean, this team, Exile, when it came through, is kind of funny because they had 3 support mains joining in. It's like, well, I wonder how this is going to turn out. Aspect's transition from support to DPS has been phenomenal. I mean, just being able to watch him again today, he had a very, very solid game with Dentic coming in as well. The two of them kind of playing off of each other very well. It seems like Exile has a bright future ahead of him.
I mean, they swap out 3 members effectively. Lots of positional moving going on. Still got some growing pains early on in this team. I mean, the different roster from when they started out. So now we're 2, maybe 3 weeks into this new look at Exile. So obviously, as time goes on, maybe they start to look a little more clean. But what they'll be concerned about is they got a big win today over FiveStack. That does it for the minor league. It was a long one. It was a fun one. Desk, wrap things up.
Thank you guys so much. Down from the Casters booth, Exile. They did it 3-2 against FiveStack Esports. Congratulations to them, of course. And, I mean, you mentioned it before, Nick. It was a little bit harder for Makoa to be able to reach that victor. He was just sitting pretty, just all the way in the back, taking those shots. And, they did it, and they took its toll.
That can happen, man. You get that level of comfort, which you're not necessarily used to seeing. And this is something we talked about in the first game when we saw that Victor ban, the Strix ban, the Inara ban, Grover ban. Weird bans. They're like, what's going on here?
Right.
It's kind of like doing your homework and realizing that these are some of the picks that you can be incredibly impactful on. You see what Aspects Victor was able to do there in the final game. You start to understand why it was banned out in game number 1.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, once again, just all around the board, did extremely good job from Exile. I mean, the Victor played a very, very huge role. Of course, the rest of the team did as well. That Ying played a pretty big factor into it as well. I mean, the Illusory Rift was really, really strong, just keeping them all juiced up, ready to go, continually fighting, and it just, I mean, it really showed.
To be honest, I kind of consider, even though these are very, very close in the sense, I kind of consider this a bit of an upset. There's been a lot of roster changes in these bottom couple of teams and settling into their roles. Like I said earlier, the analogy I used was the top 2 teams have already found their guys and they're starting to specialize their labor. Everybody's locked into their role and they're progressing, becoming better at exactly that. These bottom teams need to kind of not only find that 5, but find, like Gore said, they got 3 support mains. Yeah. You got to find those new roles for the new faces that you're bringing in. It's a tough task, I'm sure.
Right, exactly. I mean, once again, though, they were able to clutch it out. Congratulations to Exile. However, we're going to take a look at something for today. We're going to take a look at the schedule that we had, that we always ran over from today. We see it right here. Europe and North America. Penta took it over. Sour Team All Business took it over. OTP. Sanguine lost to Hype Unit, and Exile took it, as you guys just saw in that very final match. 2 3-2s in North America and 2 3-1s in Europe.
Yes, sir. Pretty competitive day overall, but that's what makes for a great minor league. Frankly, Paladins, I don't know if it's ever been more competitive when you look at the way the PPL is shaping out, when you look at how competitive the minor league is as well. There's so much still up in the air and left to be decided. Nobody's really running away with anything.
Right, exactly. We're Gonna take a look at the standings as well for both Europe and North America. All business in
Except
first.
maybe for Hype Unit.
Yeah. That's true. Penta 4-3, Sour Team 3-4, OTP 1-6, all the way in the 4th seed last in Europe minor league. But Hype Unit still sitting pretty, 7-0, undefeated. Sanguine soon to follow. Exile and FiveStack now have swap places.
Yes, sir, they have. Exile grab the win. They're in a decent spot above map differential. The map differential here in North America is perfectly symmetrical too.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, you're actually completely right. Yeah, and in this case, I mean, I'm excited to see, of course, what it is that these teams will have to bring out, in the following weeks, and just to see. I mean, of course, it's not all said and done. I mean, we still have plenty of PML to go, and we're gonna have to take a look at next week's schedule for me to show you guys what it is that I mean. You already see it right here up on the graphic. Tuesday at 11 a.m. we'll be going Sour Team versus One Trick Pony, followed by Penta versus All Business. North America will be Hype Unit facing Exile, and Sanguine versus FiveStack Esports. Some interesting games. I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, North America probably will be a little bit more convincing towards those top 2 teams, but Europe's still decently enough, especially when you look at what One Trick Pony showed today against All Business. Though that was a 3-1, a lot of those games very close, right? So Europe, expect those games to, be pretty decent. That's going to be a pretty competitive region, like we said, from top to bottom.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Penta will be able to fare against their opponent, like you said, at OTP. After today, I'm sure they'll have plenty of time to really think over, see what it is they have to do. Same thing for North America, of course. I mean, of course, there's still plenty of time that they'll be able to have the practice, of course, this weekend, and just getting ready overall to see how things are going to be going for them. And thank you guys so much for watching. It's been an absolutely amazing day. I've seen some great games. We all have. We've all loved to enjoy them around here at the studio, but that's unfortunately all that we have for you guys today. Tune in next week on Tuesday to see more PML action at 11 a.m. Bye, guys.
INAP, powering the control room for the Paladins minor league.